Not too far, right? Okay.
We get started. We have a roll call.
Anthony?
Here.
LaRue? Here. Auntie?
Here.
Owen? Here. Fabian? Here. Fryer? Dallas Elliott? Here. Raven?
Here. We have the next item of business are the minutes from the last meeting. Is there one chance to review them? Make a motion to approve that. Caitlin? What's up?
Yeah, thank you everyone for coming. Thank you. You know all the credits. Thanks everybody for coming out to. So this is a fun project. Some of you will remember about, probably been 7 years ago, we purchased 2.63 acres off of Hill Road. It's at Hill Road and Duncan, kind of between Duncan and Hobart. This was, when we purchased this property, it was part of the kind of condition for the development that was going up around there to preserve open space. And so over the last few years, we've talked to neighbors. Originally, we talked about doing some agriculture land out there. That wasn't really what the neighborhood wanted. We got onto this idea of a wetland. It's really a perfect spot for this to happen. The neighborhood is very excited about that idea. And so we are going to talk you through that. So here's where the property sits, just to give you a little bit of context. Right before the Optimist complex out there, just before you get to Bushy Road. So it's just a tiny little piece of property that is surrounded by a neighborhood, well, neighbors. And just ahead. What we worked on this year was, in conjunction with Public Works, we funded a feasibility study. So we worked with Intermountain Aquatics Inc. And what they do is come in and basically, they spent the entire summer kind of watching the way water worked on the property. They did digs, they did lots of different things, and gave us a feasibility study and report. And basically talked to us just about, is this even a viable site? And the answer is yes. There are a lot of, I would say, unknowns to this project. There are kind of different phases. So there's design, there is excavation, and then there's making it feasible. So there's a few different things as we go through. This project, when we got the application from Martha, this is one of those projects that it actually checked every single box on our criteria. So there's a pathways component, there's an open space component that helps with clean water. So we will have to, as we go through this, work with Ada County Stormwater and just talk about how all the water kind of moves through the property. So I think I have it. I'm going to just skip ahead for one quick second. So here's kind of the proposed idea of what it would look like. Again, it's a small space. We're not planning any parking. This is really a neighborhood kind of situation. If other people wanted to come, there is, like I said, Optimist is just right down the road, which is really close, with large park parking. So this just gives you kind of an idea of what the thought is of how we would manage this project or how we would function. And so when I said there's excavation, creating the wetland itself is one project alone. So getting the water to work the way that it needs to on the site, and then making it usable for the public where the pier goes in, the pathways, the vegetation. So there's different stages that we do. And so the funds that are being requested today are for all of those stages. So it is a large number, and I know all of you saw that in the packet, but that would go all the way from the design phase, all the way through constructing the wetlands, the infrastructure, feasible for the public to use this. So here is the conservation criteria. Like I said, it actually hits all of our criteria that we use in our applications. So it's just a great project that this piece of property has sat for years without anything happening on it. And I think we've done kind of a disservice, honestly, to have it just sit there and not have it. So this would give the neighborhood a place to go, really preserve that open space where all that development is occurring. So the budget, 948,000 is what we have projected. And this is one of those projects where when we go through this, it's really up to that amount. I don't think that it's going to cost that much money. But we're trying to be really careful with contingency. We actually got a budget from Intermountain Aquatics and what they thought that just the wetland build would be. We had our construction people look at that and added things that we know, like mobilization of equipment, bringing in different dirt. So they added in quite a bit extra. And then we added on top of that all the pathways, the bike racks, and all the amenities that we're building. And then as always, we do the 20% contingency. But just for example, like Peasley, when we approved that, it was $850,000. I believe we are putting 400,000 back into that we won't use. So it came in way less. But I think making sure that we approve of that as we go through it. We do have $2.6 million left still in the levy fund. And we're getting kind of to the end of it. So that's what I think one of the things that Martha and I are here today just to ask is we're trying to at least get money budgeted. I don't have a timeline for this project. We would start the design phase next year. But as far as when the actual build, when it would be within the next probably couple of years, depending on how the design works. But we're just trying to kind of at least earmark the money for a project that we think this group would enjoy before we have too many projects on our plate and get out. Take some questions.
Is there a wetland there now?
There's not a wetland there now. We own 3 water shares. There's a canal that goes around the property. And Martha, do you want to talk about just the dig and kind of what he did out there this summer and kind of now?
To take one step back, so you know what, yes, there's students from Timberline High who are really interested in property when it was purchased. I'm not exactly sure where the interest came from, but it's from their environmental club. And the teacher, Mr. Barnes, had them do a visualization process where they imagined what they would see out there if they could do anything. And that's where the wetland idea actually came from, as well as pooled water that was on the property as a result of canal leakage. So that property is covered with water in the summertime when the irrigation is on and the canals are leaking. And so that's kind of where this generation of this idea of a wetland came. And the stormwater folks from Public Works are also very interested in this project because there is an opportunity to do stormwater discharge on this property. And by opportunity, I mean that's at 30,000 feet. Looking at where the drains are, looking at where stormwater is going, there is an opportunity to then extend the amount of research that we've done into whether or not stormwater could actually be discharged on this property. So over the summer, there was several massive pits that were dug out there to see where the water table is. And the feasibility study indicates that they think if you excavate down to 6 feet, you could have open water in that, I guess it's on that western section of the wetland itself, but we'll likely need to line it to maintain that open water. So cattails will fill in and fill in the open water over time, and the whole point would be to have an open water habitat for waterfowl. So we want to make sure that that pit is deep enough so that cattails can never form a monoculture over the top and close the open water. So with that said, it's very likely it will have to be lined. And lining is, it's not like a plastic liner. There's different types of linings that can go that are made of different types of materials like clay. And I think there's some specific mention of a material that I can't remember, bentonite, I want to say. They line the wetlands with bentonite. Okay, yeah. And that would reduce the amount of water that could honestly infiltrate to the bottom of the water into the ground, resulting in that open water habitat, which is what our goal would be for wildlife habitat preservation.
In the water supply and the ground?
We would use the irrigation chairs.
Oh,
Yeah, the irrigation chairs, because we have purchased 4 actually. Yeah, 4. So it is a miner's inch. Each chair is a miner's inch. So 4 miner's inches. And you'll get better with that than I do. Because I don't.
Not acre feet?
It's not acre feet. It was sold to us in miner's inches. That's all I know.
Well,
How much is it gonna get used? I don't know if you would actually know now, but looking at that, I was curious. What, no, what you had just there this time. I guess I'm curious with. I don't go out there very often, but there isn't pedestrian, is there pedestrian access along that side of the road?
So there is, and ACHD is actually planning another crosswalk at Duncan, I believe, to get across the road. And this, let me pull out the bigger one. So all of this, thank you for that. All of this area down here is now all multi-family homes. So they are working on a crosswalk here. But I mean, yeah, the growth that's happened right here has been tremendous. And that was kind of the biggest idea was so this person, Richard Llewellyn, that's right back up here. I think the idea was that all of this, massive construction was going in, that people would be able to at least still have this space to enjoy open space on Hill Road. And that was kind of the concession that was made. But so there is access.
concession when we bought it from him?
Concession, I think, when just between the neighbors and the city and the builder. And just trying to make sure that everybody felt like they were getting kind of what they needed out of the scenario. I don't think neighbors are still, 100% happy out there, but I think that this was our way of saying, you know what, we're gonna preserve some of this area out there. So.
Bring it up in second. It's on a very, on a fast road, it will only get busier. I'm trying to put myself at that pier, peaceful setting, or on a road setting. So I mean, my input is, I think, wetland is good. It seems like we're trying to make a wetland a pond, like people enjoy. So, or I don't know if you call it a wetland. Of a pond, or is it serving as a wetland in the environment?
We classify it as a wetland because it would be open water habitat surrounded by wetland vegetation. And ponds are part of a wetland. I don't know if you can, does that answer your question? Ponds are part of wetlands. It wouldn't be just like a stormwater pond. It would be more than that. And I totally agree with you. The traffic is really heavy along Hill Road, and it would be a priority to try and put trees as a buffer adjacent to Hill Road Parkway so that that wetland area could be more secure. But no, it would not. The pond and the wetland the pond's a component of the wetland, and it's actually open water habitat is one of the rarest habitats in southwest Idaho. When there's discussion about open creation, there's a lot of, from my understanding, there's a lot of, value on open water habitat. For water, like an example, in the High Hidden Lakes is a constructed. So that is a really grandiose example of. This would be a much smaller scale. High Hidden Lakes. Yes. Mhm. Yeah.
I guess I just feel like, my gut feeling is that, wetland is a good use of the property, kind of, create a place for people to go and now that might be a stretch. So, it might not be, almost like to see it phase, have to do the path, maybe gravel it at first and see what's putting it here and.
So what
maybe
is,
it's by
Is there any, has there been any discussion about putting some sort of fence? Pathway so that like, your kids, if you bring your children.
there hasn't been, and I think,
We don't keep like, ducks and other like wildlife.
yeah, I think that a lot of the questions that you guys are having, we have hit on as we've gone through this too, which is because we don't even have, we just went to the feasibility study to see, is this even possible? Is this something that we want to do here? So I think that it is tricky to answer some of those questions. I do have the numbers broken out if we just to do the excavation and put the wetland in without all the pathways and all the different things like that. And that is, just so you have an idea, when we talk about phasing out. So 351 plus another 70. So 421. So just as a breakdown, so you can kind of understand what they do. But I agree, all the things that you brought up are absolutely super valid points. So,
Yeah, I guess with that reason, they're just fine days and. Yes. Budget and. In there, so, right.
You've got an idea, but that's like a lot.
there,
$10,000.
how much?
10,000.
Right?
2.63.
Can you talk a little bit about the element of it and what the water component, you mentioned about the high level 30,000 view, but like, what's the likelihood that, I mean, it seems like that's almost a better fit to say, like, almost to your point, like, use this as clean water, high end aspect of it rather than a public attraction of it, especially given the proximity to the foothills. I mean, like, this is got, the one and the optical, park right there too. This area has a lot already, but I guess just, could you speak to the stormwater component?
So Public Works, the feasibility study cost $20,000 and Public Works contributed $7,000 to the feasibility study because, in the climate action plan, wetland creation is a major, something that's specifically called out there. I wish Andrea Leonard was here to talk about this, but I think the number one challenge with stormwater, so ADHD, in a preliminary conversation, they were interested. However, I think the challenge is getting water onto the site, like would it actually have to be pumped onto the site? And once again, that is at 30,000 feet, that's kind of where we left the conversation. Yes, it would be really great if we could discharge stormwater on here. The drains actually line up, and my understanding from Andrea is that ACHD is actively looking for places in this area to discharge stormwater. So it checks those boxes, but from an actual logistical standpoint, that is completely unknown at this time. Unfortunately. And every time I've checked with Andrea, I think because we don't even have design money, but we don't have any money for this project. We have this feasibility study that says that this is possible. And I think that, once we got into the design piece, then we could start exploring with ACHD, but at this point, it's a clock in the sky. Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
This being water year round.
Yes.
It should be water year round.
Yes.
Okay. And then it would be the city that would be monitoring.
I don't know whether you source.
Because the bentonite liner, and that you can access, groundwater from those pits that that consultant dug out of the site. So groundwater is accessible. So we dug these really deep pits and there was no standing water at the bottom of them. So if we line the pool with bentonite, even when irrigation water is turned off, it will decrease. Same way that Hyatt Hidden Lakes, for example, the water levels can go down because the shares get turned off, but it will not dry out. The pits were, I mean, I could stand in it, so it's over 6 feet tall. The pits were deep. There would be a lot of work that would go into constructing this plant.
What time of year was it?
That was in July.
What do you think? Birthday?
Great question. I'm not a
Sure,
hydrologist.
but well,
Really great question. And I don't.
Haven't talked about. So we have not done that for. And we haven't explored that, and I don't know. That's definitely something that I'll look at.
Water rights.
Well, and the other option that we can do too is Martha and I can go back out and break down space up. And maybe that's a better thing to bring back and see how it works. So that's an option too.
Are there any other entities that would be contributing to construction?
So one of the things that we have talked about, and again, this is when, we were at 30,000 foot view. Once we get the design done, there is a lot of federal funding. There's a lot of different money out there. So that's where I guess I go back to the 948,000. I think while we had it earmarked, we had talked about alternate funding areas as well, but I want to make sure we have it funded before we start. But maybe what the thing to do is, I was gonna say, has this committee paid for just design work before? That you know of? I know, yeah, well, it's just, and I guess the reason I thought is, so if we were to come back and say, okay, the design is X number of dollars. I would need to check, my only issue with that is it's not really touching any of the criteria that we have in our application and what we try to pay for. So I think the way that we can pay for the design is that the end result is something that, fits the criteria. But what we could do is break it down to, like I said, taking out the public piece, maybe we take out the pathways, take out that. I think it's about 421,000, would be my guess at that point. So that's another option too.
Or maybe just. That's a huge part, the gravel path. Like cost effective.
Yeah, so yes, I would say that, you know, when we take a piece of property and develop it from a city standpoint, there are certain specifications that we have to maintain. And so I guess my answer to that would be, we'd almost be better off not adding any pathways, and letting it just be an open space, a habitat for waterfowl, different things. And if people go onto the property, they do, but we haven't been, because the second that we open the door to have to invite them, there's gonna be certain things that we have to
No time we pay for the signs.
do.
Infrastructure.
Kind of like a phased approach. Too much green space to provide. This is different, but primary purpose is what. The other part.
Just doing the wetland. Go visit it. And then walking on. We will start what we don't want them to, or
We
like
will
what.
definitely do the vegetation on the plans. That's probably just a chance we would take. I mean, it's just gonna kind of be what it is. No different, honestly, than out here, you know, having some not the sagebrush there. And we just try to do the best we can.
Environment.
Most effective weapon does not have pedestrian.
It's a tiny piece of property. And we really have gone rounds and rounds with what we do with it. And at least trying to get something out there. And I think, like Martha said, kind of started with the kiddos that were excited about it. And it just kind of, the ball started rolling and everybody was excited about the wetland idea. And the feasibility study showed that it could work, so. We'll just, so what we could do is maybe what I work on is I take Intermountain Aquatics budget, I work with our budget, construction people, and come back with design and just excavation and construction of the space, not maybe, come back with it. So,
Doing a wetland is a good one. So.
and he does have a design number in here, but I'd rather, parse than standard people go through it. And I haven't had them look at it.
We can explore it.
So it could be, and that's where I think, you know, we said if we could, I think at least get the money budgeted. We will then spend time where actually the city's hiring a new, development kind of director person that I think could then help us go out and look for that type of. And then what would happen is this would just roll back. But I just can't count on that until we have the money to do the design. I think that we could move forward.
From what I've seen, there is a fair amount of funding available for shovel-ready construction wetland projects. But the challenge is getting to shovel-ready.
We can also throw credit.
And that's something that has come up in conversation with some credits. I told you about that process with that discussion.
The developer of the city required building a road that. Company that developed. The city wetlands over here.
And if you think of one, email me and I'll find the answer for it. And definitely go drive by the property and just so you kind of have an idea. Yeah, it's not large.
So we got a schedule for our meeting next week.
I believe Joey sent them out.
So our next meeting will be on.
It would be there. And we'll have this back. Yeah, it's been interesting. It's been an interesting project. Sure.
I live in the Myers Edge. I should know that.
Like a lot of you.
Yeah. Well, it's equivalent to, 1.5 cubic feet per minute. And so if you have 4 shares, it's like a 10 cubic, I don't think it's like cubic feet. Not right now. But I'm assuming, yeah, I don't see about that, but I'm assuming that.
It was, we talked about, I went at the water master out there, it was a wild conversation, like, it was more or less, he said that, like, if, and this is completely at fault. So take this with a grain of salt, he said, if you feel water, you're just feeling it yourself, because it's going to Optimus.
Yeah.
And,
Oh, okay.
and yeah, and that was. And I don't know what he meant by that, I'm not familiar with canals or water master or any of that stuff, but it was a very interesting conversation. Concerned about us not having enough